You are watching NetSoft IT Academy. 905-812-2923. info@netsoftacademy.com. www.netsoftacademy.com.
So now let's start with scenario number 7. Scenario number 7 is very simple. Scenario number 7 is about database migration and decommissioning of Exchange servers. Now keep this in mind that decommissioning an Exchange server takes just as long as commissioning an Exchange server. You decommission Exchange server when you necessarily have to do it, and migration is not simple either. It takes a lot of time to migrate users from or migrate databases from one Exchange server to the other. So let's get started with this first. So first I'm going to start by creating my ADDS. Now remember, these are just pre-configured machines. These are just pre-made machines. They only have Windows Server and VMware tools installed on them, and the names are changed to match my naming standard. Other than that, everything else remains the same. Now in the previous scenario, we did DAG to create a availability group, a database availability group. Now this time we are just moving databases. And we're also going to be looking at something known as the hot and cold copy, or active or passive copy. So we'll create that as well. And I'll show you how this works, how it would work. So first, let me quickly change my IP address. And my IP addresses will be the same again, the same consistent IP addressing standard that we'll be using. That is 172.16.10.10, 172.16.10.1, 172.16.10.10. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to add roles and features right here. 3 nexts, select Active Directory Domain Services, add features. 3 nexts and install. Now the purpose of the Active Directory here is to act as your central location where all the user information and all the email information can be shared and act as the DNS server. Other than that, our real world use case of the Active Directory or the entire database here, the domain controller here, is very low. It is just there to conduct our AAA. That's it. So I'll wait for this to complete installation, and once it is installed, we'll promote the server to a domain controller. And the process is pretty much the same as all the previous scenarios, wherein we just use the same exact term or the same exact type of credentials and we get access. Now you can see that the feature installation is going along very well. I will just give it a second to complete. It doesn't take this long, not always. And in case it is taking that long, you can just restart the machine and you can just start from the installation process again. Now promote the server to a domain controller, add a forest, add a new forest. NetSoft Academy.com. .com.local, you can use either. It's the same name, so but just make sure that you're not using the same name again and again. All right, DSRM password. Now I'll just keep clicking on next until I get to the installation part, and then I'll install my domain controller and it will restart. And once it is done, we'll then move on to Nita MBXS01, and then we'll install the prerequisites, and then we'll configure the Exchange server, then move on to Exchange server 2, that would be Nita MBXS02. Repeat the same steps there. And once everything is done, we'll then create a new mailbox, create users on that mailbox, and migrate that mailbox from one server to the other. So that will be the idea. Now, another thing, I might be using a third server here just for the sake of a reference so that you understand about the purpose of a DAG and why we would use a DAG and what exactly we are going to do with it. The DAG will just let you create an active and passive copy, and we can see that in this form here. So I'll wait for this server to restart and then move on to Nita MBXS01. Okay, so my server has restarted. I'm going to sign in first. Now, remember, one of the things that I personally recommend doing, if you don't want your machines to go into sleep and then go into suspended mode, is you go to system, you go to power and sleep, and you first set it to never, so that it never goes to sleep. And that is helpful because that way when you have to double check something or you have to move back and forth between multiple machines, you are not having to sign in again and again, that just creates an additional drag on you, quite honestly. Right, so this is done. So first things first, I'll check my IP address. Okay, and you can see that my IP address isn't really here. Now, is this step mandatory? No. Is this step recommended? By me, yes. Because I don't want to have an issue with domain, something as simple as domain joining being made into a bigger issue by something as simple as this. Domain joining a server should be like, that's it, done. It should not take faster than that. All right, so this is good. So I'm now going to move on to Nita MBXS02. Now you can see there are a few things here that I need to edit first. Now, one of the perks is that one of the reasons why my machine looks a little bit underpowered sometimes is because I use a mix of methods when creating my virtual machines. So sometimes I use the custom method, or sometimes I use the standard method, and it just both of these make it a little bit different. One gives me control over everything, the other just automatically just puts a minimum base value. And that is what happens with a few of these machines. So that is why it looks a little bit awkward and weird sometimes that when you see that I have a virtual machine that is on 2 GB RAM. Well, I'm just saying give 8 wherever possible. All right, so first things, let me change my IP address. Now remember, IP address and domain join, that's the only thing that we're going to do to the server before we start with the Exchange server prerequisite installation. Again, the IP address will be 172.16.10.20. 172.16.10.1 will be my default gateway, and 172.16.10.10 will be my preferred DNS. Okay, this is good. Local server, work group, change, select the domain, netsoftakademy.com, administrator at netsoftakademy.com, and password 1350. Yes, and you can see that this is restarting now. I'll wait for it to restart, and once it restarts, we'll start with the Exchange server prerequisite installation now. Okay, so my machine has restarted, Nita MBXS01. So I'm going to log in as administrator at netsoftakademy.com. Remember, you will have to do this as somebody who has the enterprise admin role, because that gives you complete control over your infrastructure and you have all the necessary permissions. Otherwise, you might end up with a machine that does not fully have the permissions and you're trying to configure, and it could make or break your entire installation. Now, I'll go to PowerShell first. And remember, as I already mentioned earlier, that I always have my entire command list all put in a notepad file or a text file somewhere, and I just use it. So I'm going to first run the bigger command of installing Windows features. Now, while this is installing, I can mount my Microsoft 365 Hybrid Deployments ISO from right here. Microsoft 365 Hybrid Deployments ISO, and I can start installing the prerequisites as we speak. So I'm going to start with the prerequisite installation right now. So I only have to restart once, and then I need to run the commands on my ADDS, and then everything is good. So first I'm going to start with Java as usual. Remember, Java takes the longest to pop up. So that's why I start with Java first. Now while the Java installer pops up, I'm going to start with Visual C++. I agree to your terms, install. Okay. Visual C++ has been installed. Now manage Microsoft Unified Communications Managed API. Same process as usual. There's no change here. Now, there might be a few instances where you might try to install a few modules and they don't work right out of the gate. And that usually happens because either your prerequisites here are not installed properly, or it needs a restart. Either way, I honestly and personally very generally recommend doing the command first, completing all the actions in the command first, and then moving on to the prerequisite installation. But in the interest of saving a little bit of time and also showing you the potential pitfalls of what can happen and how to troubleshoot the issue when if that happens, I'm just showing you this method process. Now, I don't recommend it. I do not endorse it. I do not encourage it. Let's be very clear about it. I do not endorse it. I do not encourage it. I do not endorse it. This is a bad way of doing things. You are not doing it methodically, and when you're not doing things methodically, there is a chance that you are going to miss some things, and we don't want that. Now I'm going to install the last module, the IIS URL, and you can see this here that I will have to wait for the other installation to complete. Only then I'll be able to do it. So my Java is done. So let's try now. And you see, these are the kind of problems that you're going to face. Something that you might not even realize is a problem. So it is a good idea to always do things in order. Okay, so now my Exchange server, now while the server is restarting, I'll let it restart. I'll now go navigate back to my ADDS01, and I'm going to mount the Exchange server 2019 CU14 ISO here. And I'm going to start with the other prerequisite commands that I need to run. I just need to see which drive letter it is on. PowerShell, d:// and you can see /setup./exe, prepare schema. And now if I just press enter, this is just a command. You can see that I need to accept the license terms, and I need to either type this flag on or this parameter on at the back. So I'm going to copy that parameter and I run this. So you have multiple ways of doing this, but I just generally recommend having all of your commands on a file ready so that you don't have to worry about doing anything later on. It is just good practice. That's it. It just makes your life a little bit simpler, a little bit easier. And even at work, it never hurts to have all of your commands lined up one after the other and have your installation steps properly sorted out. Because even if you're not installing something, you might be updating something. You might be fixing something, or you might have to remake or redo something. And having a SOP is very, very beneficial. So I'll wait for this command to run and complete, and then we'll run the next command, and then we'll run the next command as planned. And then we'll see what to do next. So now you can see that the first command is complete. My schema has now been extended. So I'm going to do a little bit of, let's just say, creative work here. Organization name. And I'm running the second command, that is the prepare active directory command. This will check if I have any Exchange Server 2016 roles lying around or any Exchange Server 2016 servers in my environment. And if there are none, it will not allow any future Exchange Server 2016 installations on this environment now. If there is some, it will find a way around it. It will prepare the Active Directory accordingly. It will have that kind of, let's just say, discretion. So I'll wait for this command to complete as well. And then we'll run the third and final command. Okay, so at this point, as you can see here, that if I just zoom out a little bit, you'll see that there's a lot of content here, but I don't want to bore you with it. I think you would have enough of your own. So I'm going to now run the last command, and that is prepare domains, prepare all domains. Now it will run. Now all of these commands, as you can see, are correct. I wrote the commands in front of you. I just did a little bit of creative haggling and it worked. But it isn't a good look when you are doing it for anyone or somebody is watching and they want to see if you know what you're talking about. So that is one thing. Now, one of the important reasons why all these prerequisites are important is because you're using HTTPS and HTTP based technology here that is running on the browser that has to connect to every other domain, or it has to connect to an on-premises application. All of these things do play a very important role here, and that is one of the reasons why I am saying that it is very important to know why we are doing the prerequisites. Prerequisites are important because without these, your Exchange Server installation may not succeed as you think it might. Now, all three commands are done. So now I'm going to go to my Nita MBXS01, sign in first, and make sure to sign in as the enterprise admin. Do not sign in as the normal administrator or the device administrator, because that is not going to give you any special privilege and you might end up with a like the installation will go all the way to the end and then fail. It will be very problematic for you. Now I'm going to mount the Exchange Server ISO on this server here. Exchange Server 2019 CU14 ISO. And I'll just use the autoplay. I don't like going through all of the steps of finding the exe file, the setup.exe file, and then running it. So I'm going to do autoplay. Don't check for updates right now. Next. Now remember, this is the exact same process step that we will be following for the second Exchange Server installation, the third Exchange Server installation, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the 50th, the 100th. All of these Exchange servers will need you to run these exact same sequence of steps every single time. Can you automate them? Yes, you can automate them. You can run a PowerShell script and do everything. Yes, but is it a safe idea always? The answer is a little bit of a mixed opinion. You need to know what you're doing. And if you're not confident in your scripting abilities, then might as well just do it manually. It's just 5 extra minutes, or you can use a MDM solution or something like that and deploy or an MEM solution and deploy the applications, depending on what you're using. But you still have to do it. That's the idea here. Now we'll wait for this setup to initialize. Now, one of the biggest things in Exchange is that you actually have to wait for the installation to start and then complete, and it takes a good 35-40 minutes. So you might be tempted to sort of just move around and do something else, but it is not a good idea to leave it unattended either. Yes, it does not, it works 99% it works very well. That 1% is where things might just go wrong for you. Now by the way, I just selected the mailbox role and I'm not changing anything else. I'm just moving on. I'm disabling the malware scanning. And once the prerequisites are configured, if I missed anything, it will show up here now. If I missed any of the prerequisites, any of the commands, anything, it will show up here. And you can see there's nothing, there's just a warning, and I have the option of installing. I'm going to install. So now I'll wait for this server to complete installation, and I'll wait for it to complete 100% first before I move on to the next server. So my Exchange server is done. Now, one thing, you can just select this and click on finish, and ideally this would open up your browser window and it would automatically take you to the ECP login page. Now you can see that it did start here, but you see it does not take this entire Nita MBXS01 as the domain name. You have to give it the proper domain name so that it can actually work for you. So let's do this. Now, if this doesn't work, what does this indicate now? There's only one indication that your Exchange isn't connected yet. So then you go to Exchange Management Shell, you wait for all the connections to start, and then you log in. Now you might be thinking, okay, so that is the process step. The process step is this because I like to double check before I get into the process and do something. So that is my process here, that I like to double check, and I recommend that you should double check as well. As you can see this here, because the resources are being spooled up in the background, we don't really know what exactly is happening in the background right now. There's no way of seeing what exactly Exchange is doing or what exactly is happening. There are half a dozen services. If I go to services and I on the server that I installed on, and you can see that there are many services for Exchange. See, let's start counting from this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 28 services, not 29, 28 services. So that 28 services, now even if one of them is not properly working or not properly configured, it could create a new headache for you and you will never find out. And the only way of finding out is basically by going back and reinstalling your Exchange or repairing your Exchange installation, which is again a time consuming process. So doesn't hurt to double check always. Now if I try, now you can see this right here. I didn't even do refresh, it automatically refreshed because it was now able to establish the connectivity. So I'm going to log in first. Now at this point, I don't have any users or any user mailboxes. I don't have anything. So I'm just signing in as the administrator. I'm not doing anything else, I'm just signing in as the administrator. Yeah, this would be perfect. Now, you can also see that the process is a little bit slower, but mostly because we are waiting for the background services to work. So now if I type this, and I press enter, it should ideally give me my mailbox server. That is this Nita MBXS01. Perfect. So time zone, I'm going to select Eastern Time, US and Canada, save. Now we'll wait for this process to spool up. And yes, this will happen, nothing to worry about. Just go back and then you re-sign or you re-authenticate yourself again and you will be good to go. Not a problem. Yep, as you can see here, excuse me for a second, I'm just trying to adjust the zoom a little bit so that everybody can see what I'm trying to do here. All right. So first things, I'll click on server, I'll click on servers, and then click on databases here at the top. Now you can see I already have one database. I'm going to add a new database. Now I only have one server, so anyway, it doesn't matter which server I'm selecting. So my database name is going to be NitaDB01. Browse for the server, the target server where I want this to be mounted. I only have one Exchange server, so I'm going to mount it on this and save. You can also see this, that I'm mounting this database here. Now I'll have to restart my Exchange Information Store service. From my services, okay, I go to my server manager here, go to services from tools, and under this, I find my Exchange Information Store. Yep, right here, my Exchange Information Store. Right click, refresh, and then restart. because we are supposed to restart it. Now you can see what exactly the service does as well by looking at the description here. I'll have to wait for this service control to complete and do everything, but once it's done, you can see what this server does or what this service does in specific. Manages the Exchange information store. This includes mailbox databases and public folder databases. If the service is stored, mailbox databases and public folder databases on this computer are unavailable. If the service is disabled, any services that explicitly depend on it will fail to start. All right, so we just restarted it, and now that this is done, I'm simply going to close this here, the services, go back to the browser, click on recipients at the top, and now I'll create 5 users. Now I'm going to use the name very generically, user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4, user 5. And I'll make sure that all the users are being created on the mailbox database that we just created, Nita and DB01. Okay, so let's go. Now here I'm going to scroll down, select new user. I'll just go straight to display name, user 01, name user 01. Now I don't have an organization yet, so even if I click on browse, I'll not see an organization yet. So I'm going to be okay with this. I don't really mind. So I'm going to click on user 01, the password 1350, the same password as normal, and password 1350, and click on save. Now I'm going to repeat this process for multiple users. Now one thing which I did not do here properly, and you should also take very good note of, is right here, if you scroll down a little bit and you click on more options, you see which database the user is selected for. So by default it went to NitaDB01, but it is a good idea to check. So let me also show you how to check for that when you are creating the user. You click on this, user mailbox, new user. Let's zoom in, let's change, just look here. User 02, let's say U capital, user 02. Now no organization yet, that's okay. User 02 and the password. Now if I click on more options here, you can select the mailbox database. So if I click on browse, I can manually select my database, and I can also select an on-premise archive if I have one. I don't have one, so I'm okay. And any address book policies I have. So I'm going to click on save, and that is how you create users. So similarly, I'm going to create 3 more users in the same method. So now all 5 of my users are here. These are all users on the same database. Now remember, I said migrating databases. So I'm going to migrate the database from Nita MBXS01 to Nita MBXS02. So for that, I'll have to get started on creating my Nita MBXS02. So let's quickly change the virtual machine here. Now I'm going to start my virtual machine again. This is my Nita MBXS02 virtual machine. This is just a normal Windows server, nothing fancy. This time, however, I'm going to do very quickly, I'm going to run all the necessary prerequisite installations and start with the Exchange Server installation. So first things, let's go. I'm just cutting down the steps a little bit to make it snappier. This is going to be 172.16.10.30, 16.10.1, and 172.16.10.10. Now you can see that there is a typo here and it will not let me go back to that. So nothing to worry about. I can just close this, click on properties. .30, 10.1, 172.16, 10.10. Okay, close. Good. This is done. The IP address is changed. Local server, work group, change, domain, netsoftakademy.com, administrator, password 1350, and done. So I'll now restart this machine, and once it restarts, we'll start with the Exchange Server prerequisite installation. It's the same process step again. Nothing different. We are not doing anything differently. We're going to redo the same exact series of steps that we did on Nita MBXS02 or 01. Sorry, my bad. Nita MBXS01. We are starting on Nita MBXS02. Honestly, so I'll just wait for it to restart, and once it restarts, log in as the enterprise admin, as we discussed earlier, and then run the commands and then do all the necessary prerequisite installation. Now, while this is restarting, by the way, I'm going to simply mount the Microsoft 365 Hybrid Deployments ISO here. Okay, so my ISO is here. I'm going to click on Other User, NetSoft Academy / administrator, password 1350. Now, one of the very first things I'm going to do is I'm going to open PowerShell here. I'm going to open PowerShell. And I'll see if I can paste my pre-copied command, because I did not copy paste any other commands from earlier, but if I did, well then just copy and paste. Enter. So now while this is installing, I'll start the prerequisite installation in the background as well. Always start with Java first, because Java starts a little bit slow. Once Java is done, once the wait icon on your mouse just goes off, then you can start with Visual C++ 2013 installation. Yes, for those who are using Windows Server 2019, this is one important step. You will have to install the .NET Framework 4.8 on both your domain controller, your Exchange server, and any other server that you have, because without this it will not work. On 2022, you don't need to install it; it's already pre-installed, so nothing to worry about there. Apparently, because Exchange Server 20 or Windows Server 2019 had this issue, and for that very reason, they just moved on to 2022 and they included it as a pre-installed component. So that should be good for you. Yep. So now while this is here, you can still see that Java still isn't starting up. So I'm just going to finish the next two installations, that is the IIS URL rewrite module, and you can see this here. Certain features must be installed, otherwise you'll not be able to do it. And a lot of time what happens is even students in classes here, they kind of get carried away and they think that it's installed and then they just move on. They don't really think or double check if it is properly installed or not. The problem shows up when they're installing the Exchange server. And that is the time when no matter what you do or no matter what you try to do, it can create a little bit of a chaotic situation for everyone. Okay, you can see that my Java is installing very quickly here. This is all very repetitive work. If I'm being quite honest, it is all very repetitive work, but it builds up very good muscle memory if you do it multiple times. And you don't forget your muscle memory. Now let's try the IIS URL. You can see this is going to work now. My Java installation is done. My IIS URL installation is done. I'm going to restart. This computer. Now, once it restarts and I'm logged in, then I'll start with the Exchange Server installation. Same process steps, no changes. Absolutely zero changes. So let's wait. Let's see if this restarts. Not if, sorry. Let's wait for it to restart and log in and see if anything else needs to be done. If I said, let's see if it restarts, it looks like I'm doubting my own self here. All right, let's go other user. All right, now another way of checking if this server is ready or not is you just go to start, and here, right here, you would be able to see a lot of services that are installed. So for example, Java is installed. That tells you that, okay, hey, everything is going good. Now right click the VM settings, select the Microsoft Exchange Server 2019 CU14 ISO, mount it, wait for autoplay to come up, run the setup now. It's the same process steps now. So I'll just complete this installation first and then we'll discuss what to do next here. So let me do that and then we can look at it later. So at this point, my Exchange server on the second one, the Exchange setup on the second server is properly installed. I'm going to finish this. Now I'm going to click on Exchange Management Shell first. Just make sure that it is connected. Do the same process as we normally do. And just make sure that both those Exchange servers are running properly. Now, one more thing, this is my server 1, Exchange server 1. If I go on servers here and I click on servers and I refresh this list here, you can see that I have 2 servers now. So that is good. Similarly, if I go and click on databases and I click on refresh, I now have 3 databases. You can see which servers have the copies, which servers don't. So let's quickly do one more thing. Let's go back here. So this is connected. Now, this is good. Now, let's start with the database migration and creating a copy of the database on both locations, let's say. So first things, I'm doing everything from Nita MBXS01 at the moment. So first things first, I'll click on recipients. Then I'll click on migration at the very end here. Migration, click on add and move to a different database. Add which users you want to move. Now in my case, I only have those 4-5 users. So I'm going to select all of those 5 users. Okay. Next. This needs a name, so I'm going to give it a Nita MIG 01, migration 01. Now, there's no target database, there's nothing. I'm just moving all of these users, right? Now, moving on. Okay, actually, let's quickly go back. Let's double check a few things. Enter the database you'd like to move this server to, this database to, okay. Yeah, this is all good. Next. Okay. Click on new. And you can see that this is going to take a little bit of time. Now, there is no target database, there is no target anywhere here. So this is going to be one of those things. So, but I can edit this. Migration mailboxes, migration reports, you can see all of this. So I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to stop the migration first. delete it, add a new migration. Oh, yes, yes. So one thing that we did earlier on, and that one of the reasons why this isn't required here, is because we created the users directly on the database instead of migrating from one location to the other. We made the users on the NetaDB, so that is a good thing. So that has saved us a little bit of time. If we hadn't, then we would have to do the migration. So I click on servers. Now I can potentially, let us say I click on NetaDB01, click on the options, and I can make, you can see I only have one option at the moment. That is because I already have another one mounted here. And you can see the database copies and all these things. I would like my database copies to be mounted on or be available on multiple servers. Okay, let me dismount from everywhere. So now only my Neta DB01 is mounted, but only one server has the copy. So if the other server goes down, then I don't get anything. So I click on this. And one thing that you'll immediately notice is I don't have any way of creating a second copy because I don't have a certain thing known as a DAG. So I'll now have to create a database availability group. So let me quickly go to my third server here. And this is just going to be a domain join server. There's not going to be anything else on it. This will just domain join. I will just create the witness directory on it. And then once the DAG is available, we'll be able to see a active passive configuration. So let's quickly do this. So I'll do this in the background in a second, and we will then see the changes that we need to make. So I've domain joined this machine, Neta MBXS03. I'm now going to quickly log in. So the idea is now going to be very simple. I'm going to create a DAG. Then I'll create the copies from Neta MBXS01 to Neta MBXS02. Then I'll start the decommissioning process for Neta MBXS01. And that is where we will end the scenario here. So that, let's quickly go to this PC, local disk C, new folder, witness, files. Okay. So this would have the path. Okay, C://. All right. So I'm going to create my database availability group on Neta MBXS01. Neta tag 01. Witness server Neta MBXS03.netsoft academy.com. Witness directory is going to be this. Click on save. C:// or slash witness files, not double slash. Okay, so once this is done, then we will be able to add. Then we'll be able to manage DAG membership, add both of our servers. Now remember, in the previous scenario, we did this exact same step as well, but that was when we were just creating a database availability group and understanding what it does. Now we are going to look at how exactly it would work and how we are going to use it. So this will take a few minutes. So we'll wait, and you might get the same error as yesterday, but it's okay, we can just work around it. So now you can see that my DAG membership update is complete. Now where would this show up? If I go on databases now, I select my database, and if I click on view details and a little bit of creative work here, you can see that I have the option of add database copy, and this is for Nita DB01. So I'm going to add the database copy. I'm going to specify the server. So you can already see that it is part of my group here. So I have this, and I click on save. Now remember, this would not be possible without the DAG. So you'd need the DAG here for this. Close. And now you can see that there are two servers with the copies. So one server has the active copy and the other has the passive copy. So if I click on, let's say, activate. So the database copy on Nita MBXS02 would now be active here. And if I refresh this, you can see where it is active and where it is passive. So you can, if I click on view details over the database copies and everything, you'd get more active, more data. So you can see this here, right here. Passive healthy on Nita MBXS01 and active mounted here. So this is what we wanted to do. Now comes the next part where I'm going to close all this. I'm going to close all this. Now I'll go click on start, and I'll just simply right click on Exchange Server 2019 management or Exchange Server Management Shell and click on uninstall. This will bring me here where I'll right click on Exchange Server Cumulative Update 2019 Cumulative Update CU14, and I'm going to click on next, and I'm going to remove Exchange Server. Now all of this is happening on Nita MBXS01. Keep that in mind. This is all happening on Nita MBXS01. Now, do you see these things here? That, oh, you need to restart the setup because there's a lot of things here. There's a lot of things here. So first, I'll have to close this. Second, if I retry again, you can see this is one more thing. So, okay. Now, this is happening because I have a passive copy of the database here. So let me quickly go back. You can see this, that this is going to just be one of those things where, do you see this now? Because it is now no longer connected. So easier way obviously, you go to Nita MBXS02, go to the browser here. Remember, it's like I said, no matter how difficult it was for us to set up the Exchange server, removing it is equally, if not more difficult, because there's a lot of dependencies that work here. And we want to ensure that our dependencies are not crashing our system here. So let me open a new private window, Nita mbxs02.netsoftakademy.com/ecp/. Now, the reason why we have to do this is also because we made this into an active copy. So that is going to be one other thing that we need to understand, that we made this into an active copy. So only this server actually is running the active copy of the database. And because it is in this delicate state right now, this is exactly what it would do. So there's nothing wrong with this. Actually, there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with either of this. It's just because that the services are working in the background, things are just synchronizing. So this will happen. It's not a problem here. But this is how you would this is how you do all of your things and do everything. And you can see this, it's a member of a DAG. That is also another thing. I'll have to remove the DAG and then I'll be able to do it. So you can see that it is not that easy. It's okay, we can get it done. It's not a challenge. We could get it done even from the Exchange Management Shell here. Once this connects back, you could say get dash mailbox database. So we only have Nita DB01. that is active. Oh, I had a typo here. It was supposed to be NITA, not NIT. NITA-DB. And you can see that it is still not taking it because that's because mostly this doesn't have the flags. You can see this. Server, let's say NITA MB XS01. So you can see this. Now, I'm not against the fact that this could happen, and I'm actually telling you that from the beginning that this will happen. It is just a part and parcel of the entire process in general. So don't worry too much about it. The goal is not to do all this, but to understand how the process would work. Sometimes there could be, because of the background services, sometimes you could have these kinds of issues. Sometimes there could be something else. So let me go back here. Let's try refreshing this. And you see that it is all just here. It cannot handle this request. Okay, let's try something. Get dash mail. Let's say get dash database availability group. Okay, let's see if we can remove database availability group identity. And you can see this here only on empty database availability groups. So I'll have to remove the availability group server first and then do it. Okay. Server. Oh, excuse me. Let me start this again. Server. Now this would be NITA DAG01. Now my mailbox server would be NITA MBXS01. And you can see that it is validating the parameters. Because mailbox has multiple copies. Remove mailbox, you have to remove this copy from the server. So I'll have to dismount the mailbox database, then I'll be able to do it. Or I'll have to suspend the copy. So you understand the complexity of this, and this is one of the reasons why I said that it is difficult to do it. So let me show you the commands to dismount or disconnect the database. Disconnect the database, and then we can be doing this. So now first here, I'm going to do this command, remove dash mailbox database dash server NITA MBXS01 dash identity, and this is the identity NITA DB01. Enter. But you can see that it is not taking the parameter server. It's okay. Let's try this, and you can see that one or more mailboxes. So you need to get mailbox database ID, and then you will be able to do it. Okay. Database. Include identity. Oh. And this is the one that we have, the name. So let's try this. Remove dash mailbox database. So identity here. As you can see, these ones have an identity. This one does not. The NITA DB01 does not. So let's try NITA DB01. And you see this again, we are going to get all of these things here. So you need to do a lot of things to actually make this work. So let's do one more. Let's do get dash mailbox database dash let's do mailbox dash database nita db 01. And you see, we actually have user accounts here. And this is one of the reasons why that if something went wrong when we were migrating, when we were creating the users, we were doing something else, all of this would show up here, to be quite honest. So this is where I'm going to stop the scenario for now, because removing Exchange is a very complicated task, as you can already see. So I cannot even remove my DAG, let alone do anything else. But we can still try one more time. All right, so let's do this. So the first command is going to be suspend dash mailbox database copy dash identity nita db01 slash nita mb access01. Okay. So now let's try the previous ones that we were working with. Nita db01 backslash nita mb access01. Oh, if there is a typo there, ident, and you say A, yes to all, has been removed now. So now let's clear this. Now remove dash database availability group server. So nita dag01 nita mb access01. Now all of this was because we had a active copy running. So we have now suspended the copy, then we removed the copy, and now we are just making sure that we are removing the server from the database availability group as well. Now you might be thinking this is way too much work for just the idea, but no, this isn't. It is part of the process. Unless and until you do all of this, you will not understand how difficult it is to get access or to do with or to work around with all of this. So I'll just wait for this command to complete, and once it completes, we will start with the Exchange server uninstall process. Okay, so now my DAG is done. So now if I just do get dash DA database availability group server, you can see that I only have nita mbxs02 in nita DAG. So I could potentially remove the database availability group server again. And this way I do not have any other problems here. As you see, it's the last server. And once this is all removed, you can then simply start the uninstall process, because we also disconnected the database as well. So even the database does not exist. The copy is already there on the second server. So we don't have to worry too much about it. And yes, you can also mount, if worst case comes in, you can also mount the via PowerShell, you can mount the database directly onto the server again as you wish or as you need based on your requirement, quite honestly. So we'll wait for this command to complete, and once this is processed, then we'll start with the uninstall process. All right, so my command is done. Now if I get database availability group You can see that I have the Nita DAG, but I don't have anything else. This is good. Now I'm going to close the Exchange Management Shell here first, and I'm going to click on retry again for the uninstall process. Once it says anything, you can still see this. It contains one or more mailbox plans, all of this. So you need to get rid of the mailboxes, you need to disconnect everything. And this is one of the reasons why you still want to be able to have access somewhere. So let's go back here. Okay, get dash mailbox database, let's say. So let's do one thing. Let's remove dash mailbox database. Now the identity of this one is this mailbox server here. Dash identity slash Nita MB access 01. You can see this here that there is a argument here because mailbox database, this is the number. Now another way of doing this is you can use this command that will give you the identity, and this is the right identity of that we used. So if I do this instead of this, you see it does not accept the term. So this is where it gets a little bit challenging sometimes when you're working with prompts. It does not let you do anything. So we first suspend dash mailbox database. And you can see that we don't even have a copy anymore. Dash identity Nita DB 01 slash Nita MB access 01. Could not be found. So this is good. Now remove dash mailbox database. Asks us for the identity. We give it the identity that we copied earlier slash Nita MB access 01. And you can see that it cannot be converted. Again, same reason why. Mostly because the name is completely in different letters. See? So this is not a problem. Another way that we could actually do this, is just go back to the Exchange Management Shell. And let's see, let's try this command. Disable dash mailbox. And you see, it only allows you to disable mailbox or mailbox quarantine. So you can't even disable anything properly here. So you see all of this makes your life a little bit difficult. To disable all of this, you would have to either use the services, either have to use the services tab on your server manager here, or you would have to kind of just plan your entire performance in advance. And you can see that either way, this is going to be one of those things where it takes more time than it actually did to set up. Because now you will have to turn off every single service here. So let's say right here, we start from Microsoft Exchange Active Directory topology stop. And this stops almost everything. I'm going to stop it. We'll see what exactly is getting stopped, and then whatever does not get stopped, we'll just go on and stop everything. Now remember, part of the reason why we are doing this entire complicated set of sequences is because we know for a fact that, or we need to understand that once we have an entire environment set up, how difficult it is to disassemble it. You can see that it is turning off almost all the services starting from here. 1 or 2 services will still be running. But the moment I stop it, once it is not running, I can quickly just start the uninstall process then. And you might be thinking, why couldn't have we done this earlier? We couldn't do this earlier because even if we had done it, it would still show us a few errors. So that leaves us with diagnostics. I'm going to stop that service as well. Health manager, I'm going to stop this service. Now that leaves very few things running here, and I'm okay with that. So if I retry this again now, so it is configuring the prerequisite. It is checking if any service is running actively or if something else is going on. But the moment I turn off Exchange completely, it is all gone anyway. Now, Exchange is one of those services that is a very clunky service in general to set up and equally clunky in general to get rid of. You can see that it's clunky. It's not clumsy, it's clunky. Now, if I go back here, you can see my prerequisites are actually being analyzed and configured here, and I still have some errors. You see, my mailbox databases contains 1 or more mailboxes, mailbox plans. So now, even if I have a mailbox, I'll have to move that mailbox. I'll have to migrate that mailbox. That is the kind of pain that this will take me through. So I'm going to stop the scenario here because quite honestly, we understand what exactly needs to be done and how to plan for it. So in case you ever need to, just remember you can just do this. Or you need to plan first before you actually leap into this Exchange server decommissioning or anything. It is a difficult thing. You just need to understand that. And even by the way, even my administrator mailbox is actually set on Nita NBXS01. It's not set on Nita NBXS02. So one of the reasons why I don't get access is also because of that. You see? Let's try this. Let's change the server. Let's see what exactly happens here. Just imagine all the services that we have, and we have turned off all the services there. So anyway, I don't get access. This is the kind of mess that you deal with if you do not do properly. If you do not plan your migrations, if you do not move your users properly, all of these things happen then. So keep that in mind, and I'll see you in the next scenario. Thank you.
Thank you for watching NetSoft IT Academy. 905-812-2923. info@netsoftacademy.com. www.netsoftacademy.com.